The world of darkness is a world of fiction. It takes inspiration from many aspects of real life, but also from fantasy stories and conspiracy theories, some of which have their basis in bigotry. The Technocracy, much like its influences, contains traces of prejudice in its construction, and while it would be irresponsible to not mention these aspects like they don't exist, it would be even more irresponsible to not openly and unambiguously disavow them. Bigotry is a loser's ideology. Racism, anti-Semitism, homophobia, and any other sort of hate is not welcome on this channel. None of what I say here should be applied to the real world. Do not use a tabletop game to justify your close-minded hatred. Now, with that out of the way, enjoy. I'm gonna let you in on a little secret, Private. The only reason that up is up, down is down, that anything works the way that it does, is because we've all agreed that's how it works. Einstein, Newton, Hawking, they put words to intangible concepts, and thus solidified them. Made them a part of our consensual reality. Anyone who can learn to walk through walls just needs to spout some meaningless technobabble about vibrational frequencies. And boom. The masses, in reality, eat it right up. That look in your eye. That's the look of 1,000 new ideas being born. Welcome to the Technocratic Union, Doctor. You're about to change the world. Part 1. The Monolith. The Technocratic Union has been a feature of Mage the Ascension ever since the first edition dropped in 1993. Acting as a monolithic antagonist in the first two editions, 2000's revised edition, as well as the release of the Guide to the Technocracy in 1999, really helped to flesh out the Union, showing us a few glints of humanity behind the mirror shades. We finally got to see what makes them tick, what drives everyone from the agents in the field to the shadowy council of control. The Technocratic Union was founded in 1325 by a number of scholars and mathematicians. Despite being awakened, these mages rejected the mystical explanations for their feats, instead prescribing their powers to science, the real, the tangible, the provable. These enlightened, as they call themselves, saw the harm wrought by jealous, selfish mages, scratching at each other over whose magic is the most real, at the expense of the sleepers around them. To these Renaissance-era minds, the answer was obvious. This wasn't magic. In their eyes, innocent people were suffering and dying because the power to change reality and perform miracles was in the hand of power-hungry Neanderthals, clinging on to their ancient ideas. Thus, the Order of Reason was formed to promote the spread of, well, order and reason. Noble as their intentions might seem, the Technocracy has always had one fat, cancerous worm at its core. Every magician is a target, and they only have two ways of dealing with targets: brainwashing or killing. Doesn't matter if you're a necromantic corporate slave master, or a religious minority to whom spirituality and rituals are a form of worship or even therapy. You're a deviant, and deviants are dangerous. Unfortunately for the Union, the genocide arm eventually ended up getting in the way of the science arm. You see, the Technocracy were hoping to fill the void left by the Magi with their own, more tech-driven miracles. They had big ambitions, like what Elon Musk sees before the weed wears off big. Unfortunately, as humanity stopped believing in magic, they also stopped believing in things like space colonization or an end to world hunger. Things the Technocracy had always hoped to achieve. The same paradox that pushed mages to the fringe of society ended up trapping the Union within its own monolith. The Technocracy, as we've discussed, is all about science. To them, mages simply aren't willing to put in the effort to truly understand how their powers work. All effects can be reproduced with the proper procedures if one is willing to learn. Like their idols, men like Isaac Newton and Stephen Hawking, the Technocracy put words to things one can never truly understand, all in the effort of sharing these miraculous effects with the unawakened masses. The Technocracy have explanations for even the most esoteric of ideas. Quintessence? That's just leftover energy from the Big Bang. Paradox? Malfunctions happen all the time in labs. The avatars and seekings, simply the flashes of inspiration all geniuses are cursed with. Spirit magic? I think you mean dimensional science, deviant. Some technocrats do dabble in fringe sciences like parapsychology, largely the field agents who regularly run into telekinetic ghosts and mind-controlling vampires. But it's generally frowned upon without being outlawed outright. Despite the fascist overtones and Orwellian imagery and, well, everything else, the Technocratic Union do try and abstain from mortal politics. There's no grand puppet masters manipulating governments to their whims. The Technocracy are, first and foremost, scientists. And while there are some social engineers among their ranks, they're vastly outnumbered by the literal engineers. Part 2. Methods and Madness. The Technocracy is divided into 5 different conventions, each representing a different area of expertise within the Union. These conventions are Iteration X, who specialize in biotech and fusing organic beings with technology. If you've ever run into a seemingly normal person who proceeded to unfold and shapeshift into a Terminator, that's likely an Iterator. They have the most powerful military unit among the Union, but weapons aren't the only thing they deal in. They have implants to boost a person's neural capacity and charisma, and they can emulate human behavior so accurately, they have numerous programs that are able to predict enemy patterns and allow them to respond accordingly. Most iterators have some degree of permanent paradox, as their body rejects their implants. The human form is imperfect, and if you want to improve it, you're gonna have to make some sacrifices. The New World Order, the major exception to the Technocracy's policy of abstaining from mortal politics. They take a more authoritarian approach, which is saying something when it comes to the Union. While they still want to use technology to aid humanity, they believe that the tech itself should only be in possession of some sort of ruling body of scientists, if only there were some sort of word for that. The NWO are the stereotypical black hats and mirror shades of the Union, manipulating government agencies and deciding who should have what information. Most infamously, the NWO prefer to kidnap and condition reality deviants rather than just kill them. Though, with how intense technocratic conditioning is, the result is often the same. The progenitors, who, much like Iteration X, seek to perfect the human form. Unlike the iterators, they prefer a less mechanical approach. To them, there is no limit to what humanity can achieve. Through genetic manipulation, accelerated evolution, or even cloning, the progenitors seek to forge the platonic ideal of humanity. Sure, they occasionally end up creating some body horror monstrosities or mindless ghouls, but hey, you can't bake a Promethean omelet without breaking a few psyches. The Syndicate. Conspirators who value one thing above all else: wealth. Money makes the world go round. To the point where we talk about the value and worth of human beings. The Syndicate have weaponized this hyper-capitalist viewpoint to maintain a vice grip on the world around them. Where the money goes, they follow. Banks, corporations, and all big businesses are under the Syndicate's thumb. And the Void Engineers, the premier dimensional scientists of the Union. The Engineers are obsessed with the idea of space and other dimensions. These areas hold unlimited potential for resources, as well as unlimited potential for danger. The Engineers work to explore the Umbra, mining it for materials and eliminating any possible threats. They are single-handedly responsible for the Union having any sort of foothold in the spirit world. The one place mages used to be safe. Well, as safe as any other flesh being in the spirit world. Throughout the entire Ascension War, the Engineers have proven to be the Technocracy's secret weapon. Part 3. Threat Null. The Technocracy have a few enemies for a GM to use in their campaign. Mages are the obvious choice. You have the Council of Nine Mystic Traditions, though given the turn the Ascension War has taken in recent editions, they're not likely to put up an even fight. More dangerous, and more unambiguously evil, are the demon-worshipping Nefandis and the reality-blind Marauders. If you want your game to be about playing the good guys, or even just the lesser of three evils, these are your go-to baddies. But perhaps the greatest threat to the Technocratic Union is, well, the Technocratic Union. The Union has a number of secret societies that could provide some fascinating intrigue. To name a few, you have the Cassandra Complex, unabashed mystics who have prevented many a catastrophe through their anonymous tip-offs, the Harbingers of Avalon, imperialists who believe in the superiority of the British Empire, the Friends of Courage, rogue individuals who work tirelessly to expose the Union's corruption in order to improve upon it, and the Invictus, an incredibly secretive organization working tirelessly to rout any potential double agents in the Union. But, well, let's say that's not the only way the Union is tearing itself apart. You see, in the Void Engineers' dedicated sourcebook, they discovered a truly horrifying threat that lies within the Umbra. One that is so highly classified, none of the other conventions are even allowed to know about it. Threat Null. At first, Threat Null seems to be another faction of Nefandi, reality deviants tainted by the spirit world. However, further research yielded some chilling results. After the Avatar Storm, an event I've covered on my YouTube channel, many mages and technocrats were lost inside the spirit world, most of which were incredibly powerful. Some of these lost scientists became corrupted as time seemed to slow around them. These twisted souls formed their own dark mirror to the Union, showing the Technocracy what they could become if they're not careful. The Void Engineers have co-named this twisted union Threat Null, and work tirelessly not only to destroy it, but to keep the rest of the Union from ever discovering its existence. Because in this time of war, the last thing the Union needs is to doubt itself. Thank you all so much for listening. Larchek is written, produced, and performed by Arabelle Warner. Additional music by Kevin MacLeod and Incompetech. Go to patreon.com/LilyTheDoof to support the show and gain all sorts of cool rewards, including guaranteed requests for episodes of this very podcast. Mwah.